YouTube. Welcome, Mr. Steve Weinberger. What exactly is your title? I know obviously you're a head judge, but is there a bigger title for you? Because I know you're
Well,
the
I was the vice president of the MPC,
okay,
but then when Tyler came over, he that kind of went to him.
okay,
So I'm kind of like not really just the head judge of the Olympia. Really would probably be my best title, and also I'm the chairman of the Northeast from New Jersey all the way up to Canada,
okay. But
except
you've
for
been
Connecticut.
how long have you been the head judge? How long have you been judging in the IFBB or the
I've been
NPC?
judging in the IFBB since 1987. Excuse me, 89.
So you got what is that, 40 years almost?
Just about 40 years. Yes.
So when people tell you that you got it wrong, how does that make you feel?
You know what? It depends what the person is. It depends. If it's someone I respect, I'll listen to. If it's someone I think is an idiot, I'll just keep moving.
Yeah.
Keep it
You
moving.
know, that was funny. It was a question I thought of today when I was kind of because I was excited to have you on. And one of the questions I thought of is, can you recall a time when you think you got it wrong? Like you did the show, you made a call, and then afterwards you're like, you know what, maybe I didn't
I got to be honest. I go over every show. After a show, I usually don't sleep until like 3 o'clock in the morning because
do it.
I go over every show. I always just go over myself. I think could it have gone this way? Could it have gone that way? It could have if he would have done this. He could have. I not that I second guess myself, but I do question myself sometimes because no one's perfect. But
Yeah,
I think I get it right because I keep posing them and calling them out until I'm sure.
yeah, yeah. So you can't recall a time, and I mean, I guess I don't know if you can even say that, but can you like for example, the Phil Heath Kai Green era?
That'd be the one right there. Honestly, that would be the
Yeah.
one. That would be the one that honestly you could have argued that show either way. You really could have.
So how does that? I mean, look, at the level that you're judging, obviously, it's impacting somebody's life pretty dramatically.
Right.
So, and I think you had a relationship with Kai, obviously, being from the
He's
East
from
East
he
Coast.
came out
Yeah,
of my gym. So I mean, it's
right.
honestly, I'm so cautious of that, and
Right.
that's why my gym is also open. Like people, I look at anyone, not just people from my gym.
Right.
You email me, you make an appointment, you come down, and I will look at your physique in the posing room. I do
Right.
that for everyone, whatever gym they're from. To be fair, because I do have a gym,
Right. Right. Right.
and we have a
So,
lot of athletes here.
so when you're trying to judge somebody like Kai, who
Right.
you have a personal relationship with, and
Right.
it's really, I don't want to say apples and oranges, but people can make a case for Kai beating Phil in some of those shows.
Absolutely. Well, I think the last one more than any other show, honestly.
Which
The
year was
last
that?
one that Kai did, I think that was the closest one.
What about, I think people talk about the Shrew Classic a lot as being one of the ones that Kai might have been better at. Is that ever crossed your mind?
Honestly, no. The one that
No.
crossed my mind is the last one
Yeah.
that Kai did for the Olympia. That's the one that's, I don't know why, but that one is stuck in my head.
Is there any, oh, somebody just said Victor Martinez. That's a good one. The Victor
Victor
Martinez.
Martinez, Jay Cutler,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. That show could have went either way. If
Okay.
you ask Victor, he'll tell you he won. You ask Jay, he'll tell you he won. But you know what?
Yeah.
That was what you just keep posing him and posing him. That's what I do. And usually someone starts holding water and someone starts getting harder. And that's where you go.
Okay. Okay. So if you have a tie, that's your kind of go-to is let's see who can.
That's what I do. That's how I break a tie. I will
Okay.
pose them until someone breaks.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's why posing is so important. And that's why you need to pose a half hour a day. You need to be prepared for that because
Right.
there is a chance it might happen.
Right. 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 I wanted to ask you about eras. And I'm gonna throw myself into the fire on this one because I'm a fan just as much as I am an athlete or a retired athlete. So as a fan, I've always looked at bodybuilding in like obviously eras like 80s, 90s, 2000s, and so on. And I feel like there was a turn in the 90s. And I always say to people, like when we're talking about athletes, people say like, what happened with the guts? The waists got bigger, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I always think to myself, there was a decision to be made at one point, 94, 95, 96, somewhere in there, between Dorian Yates being an absolute freak, who I never saw in person, so I can't say whether, where he should have been or whatever, where he should have placed. But there was other athletes like Kevin Levrone or Flex Wheeler or something like that. Do you ever think to yourself, maybe the judges took the wrong turn towards mass instead of aesthetics, or are you
I
just
don't think
judging?
so.
Are you just
Honestly, I
judging what's
really
in front of you?
don't.
No.
I think if Flex Wheeler would have been in better shape, he would have probably been an 8-time Mr. Olympia. But he was
Really?
always soft.
Okay.
And you can't reward that sort of conditioning. And
Right.
I'm not saying crazy conditioning because we don't want guys dying. We want them to be healthy.
Hmm.
But Dorian can really he out conditioned everyone back in those days. I mean,
Hmm.
there was that one year it was very close between him and NASA. Absolutely, you know what I mean? And that was the end of Dorian's career where he started tearing body parts.
Yeah.
It was the beginning of the end for Dorian, honestly.
Hmm. So you don't. So you're just judging what's in front of you,
Yes.
regardless of. But because I've seen a shift from, I want to say 95 to 2010. There's been a shift back to a more symmetrical aesthetic physique. And guys with a wider waists or thicker waists are getting penalized a little bit, I guess, or not, maybe not penalized, but not scored as high.
Not scored as high. They're definitely not being penalized. But if you've
Yeah.
got a guy that's got great shape and is in great condition,
Right.
he will beat a guy with that wide waist. But
Right.
if that wide waist is in great condition and the guy with great shape is not in great condition, that wide waist could very easily win.
I see. So you think someone like a Ronnie Coleman, well, Ronnie Coleman's a bad example because he's the king of kings, but
Yes.
someone like a someone like a Dorian Yates 97. If
Right.
you put a Dorian Yates 97 into today's lineups, let's not worry about size, for example, just talking about shape. Is he still going to get a fair look, or is that 97 version of Dorian Yates not going to get
He'll get a
not
fair look. He'll get a fair look, but he'll have his hands full.
yeah,
He'll have his hands full, but he'll definitely get a fair look. Everyone gets a fair look,
yeah.
honestly.
Well, I guess a fair look is the wrong way to put it. How would he fare in today's lineups? I guess if not
In
not
97 or Dorian at his best.
no 97 or
It's so
96.
it's so you know what? It's so really hard until you see them together because honestly, Dorian still was so hard and had such a great back that he would be right in there, honestly, I believe.
Really,
I do, yes. I
I always
mean,
want. Yeah.
Dorian was awesome in his day. He was he was so hard and so dense and so thick.
Hmm.
He was really good.
How do you think? I know you're a judge, and well, you're also a promoter, so this question would go to you as well. How do you think we can inform the audience better? Because I've been at shows and I've seen shows online, and you know as well as I do, seeing the thing in person and seeing the thing online is two totally different looks. So
Yes.
sometimes you have people judge a show based on Instagram.
It's no well, honestly, sitting in the audience,
Yeah,
depending on where you sit, the
yeah,
judging looks different.
right,
I mean, we
right,
have the best seat in the house, so that's why, we call it, right. But there are guys that are sitting all the way in the back and all the way to the right that don't get a full view, that are judging it like they are getting a full view, and they come out of there saying so and so got screwed, this one, and it's they really need to look at it head on to really see, and that's part of the problem with fans judging shows.
Do you
I
think
mean, don't
something?
get me wrong. These fans are educated. They know what they're talking about. They
Right,
know about condition. They know about shape. They
right,
know who's on. They know who's off. But sometimes it's hard to see if you don't have that right line of vision. I
right,
mean, you
right.
could see, but not get it exactly right.
Do you think something like live scoring would benefit the sport at all?
I have no problem with it. I don't know if it would benefit, but I have no problem with it.
I feel
It,
like
it, you know, it might hurt bodybuilders, their egos, going into the night show. It might ruin them. I don't know if that's good for the bodybuilders, but I think it's great for the fans. Yeah, but I don't know, like a guy that thinks he's in first and he's in third might just give up and not come in good on Saturday night and blow it when
yeah.
maybe the two guys ahead of him are not in the same condition and he could move up. So I don't know if that's good for their heads. You know what I mean?
I
Like
just
like
want
the fighters, after every round, they don't
yeah.
know if they're winning or not.
But don't they? Because if you think about it as a fighter, like when they go back to their corner, unless it's close, they know if it's a 10-9 round or 10-8. You know what I mean? Like they kind of know, like, okay, like usually you'll see like a coach in the corner before the third round of a UFC fight, go, hey, we're down 2 rounds. You got to do
Well, we've
something.
got to win this. We got to win this
Yeah.
round. But
Yeah.
that's the same thing as a coach with a bodybuilder. Look, you're soft. You've got to get harder tomorrow.
Right.
You've got to come in harder. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? They
Right.
have their coaches just like the fighters have their coaches that are telling them what to do. You
Hmm.
know, or you know what? You could have been a little fuller. Let's carve you up a little bit. You look a little stringy out there.
Yeah. I think this is something I've been batting around. I wanted to actually ask Tyler about it. If it was something that would be possible to implement just on the fun side of things. In Detroit, for example, was like live scoring where it's almost like figure skating, where they're like, they go out, they do their routine, and then they're scored by the judges and they see their score. And I'm like, it would kind of be cool for people to understand this guy scored a 10 in symmetry, a 9 in condition, and an 8 in muscularity. So then people
Right?
can
Well,
kind
see,
of,
we don't score that way. We don't score like Olympics. We
okay,
score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight down with the first getting the number one score
right,
and one of the worst ones getting a 16. So
right.
we score differently.
So you're scoring them based on placing.
Absolutely, including posing.
But what I'm asking would it be possible to do something where,
They did that years ago and it never worked. They did that in the early '80s and it didn't work.
why not?
The judges would stand up there with numbers and
Really?
it just it didn't work. It just didn't work. Bodybuilders were mad at them. Why are you giving me this? Right? It was just like it was
I
a
didn't
mess.
I didn't know that. Judges
Yeah,
stood up with a number?
the judges would hold a number. Yeah,
Oh my God, that's insane.
yeah, they did do that.
But I
Didn't
just,
work.
yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just kind of brainstorming because I'm like, I just wonder what can educate the fan more. Like, there's a reason I think why UFC is so popular, other than the fact that fighting is super exciting. When you watch a UFC, I don't come from a fighting background, but I understand what they're doing now, even in like
Right,
the jujitsu realm, because it's like they kind of educate you while you're watching.
right.
So I'm like, I'm trying to find a way in my head to educate the audience
Well,
as
I think like when you guys are doing the Arnold,
yeah,
if you could maybe explain, like his legs are not as hard as they usually are. His legs are harder. He has better shape. I
right,
think if you have more time to explain to the audience
right,
why we're going through prejudging, what we're looking at, and what these people are in the condition that they're in, why they're standing to the left or standing to the right and not standing in the middle. Maybe, you guys as the broadcasters could educate them
right.
just like, Joe Rogan does in the UFC.
Right, right, right. And we try, and I think we try and do that. I think,
I think we have to do it more. I think that
yeah,
would help a lot, honestly. Before the
yeah,
shows, explaining what you expect out of this bodybuilder and that bodybuilder. And then when they come on, well, this wasn't what you expected. He's actually in better condition, or he's not in the condition we thought he was going to bring. Like maybe you could do like a preview before, and then when they come on, explain the kind of condition they're in and explain to the fans why they didn't do as good as they was expected to do or
right.
why they did better.
So we do preview shows before the shows, but usually the main thing we talk about in the preview shows is predictions. So you're saying in an effort to
Condition and what you expect them to look like,
so instead of just predicting where we think they're going to place, where
why they're
you
going to place this way.
yeah, what we expect their physique to look like on that day.
Yes, I
Yeah,
think that would educate them a little better.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. So I wanted to the main reason I wanted to bring you on was to talk about Prague. We'll get to that in a minute. But I want to ask you quickly, did you compete before you started judging?
I was never a bodybuilder because I loved bodybuilding. I trained as a bodybuilder, but I looked in that mirror and I was even a judge back then. I had a wide waist. I had shitty legs.
Yeah.
I had a thick back and a thick chest and thick shoulders. I had little arms. I power lifted. I
Okay.
competed as a power lifter. I went up to 300 pounds. It
Yeah.
was a very uncomfortable weight. I came back down. I used to walk around at about 260. Now I
Yeah.
walk around at about 230. But I did compete as a power lifter. But remember, I lived with a bodybuilder for many years. And
Yeah.
although I didn't compete, sometimes it's just as stressful being the guy on the outside.
Right. Right. Do you think you got some of your judging prowess from living with a bodybuilder for so long?
I think from being around the sport so long. I mean, I've been around the sport since I'm 21, and I do think so. Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Um, where did you have the wherewithal to know you didn't want to bodybuild? Because some guys, regardless of whether their physiques are perfect or not,
I think
just
that's what makes me a good judge. I could see, I
right
like
away.
plenty of kids come in here and I'm like, you know what? You really have it. If you take it seriously, you'll make it. You'll do really well. I don't, you could be maybe a national champion, who knows
Yeah,
what, but
yeah.
I see plenty of guys that I just tell them, look, you know what? You should just be doing this for fun. If you want to compete, that's cool, but don't expect to be a national champion or even a regional champion, but have fun and enjoy it.
So you're
You
able
know,
to have,
it's a sport. You know what I mean?
yeah. So you're able to have those conversations and it doesn't bother you.
No,
Like
I'm pretty straightforward.
so if
I,
someone
I
comes
mean, I'm
into your
honest. I'm
gym,
not mean about it. I'm just
yeah.
honest. I'm not
So
saying you suck. I'm saying your genetics are limited.
so a 21-year-old kid comes in, you take a look at him, you have no problem saying to him, this might not be for you. Have you ever done that and been wrong?
I don't know, to tell you the truth, because usually when I tell them that's it. But it's just, I don't tell them just quit. I tell them, look, be the best you could be, but you could make a living in this sport. You
Right,
could be a trainer. You could be a judge. You could be a promoter. You could own a gym.
right,
You could still train and look great and use your body as a tool. You won't be a national champion, but you will look great. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
You'll
right.
look great at the beach. You'll look great in clothes. I do tell them that. I don't discourage them to leave the sport. I encourage them to find other avenues to be successful.
Mm-hmm. What do you think's changed about judging between when you started to now? Because I mean, you've been judging since the 80s. Is it still the same or has a lot changed since then?
I honestly think it's still the same, but I think with Jim Mannion at top, we really got rid of a lot of bad judges. There were bad judges,
Hmm.
and Jim Mannion cleaned that out. And we still sometimes there are judges that we have to just look at their scores and say, you know what, they're not judging no more, which is good. Why we take the high and the lows out.
Do you think, okay, so a lot of people don't know that the highest score and the lowest score is thrown out.
Yes, and
Just
depending on how many judges, it could be three highs and three lows, or two highs and two lows, or one and one. So if there is a bad judge, he's not going to affect the outcome of the show, and he won't be judging any longer, or her, whether it's a woman or a man.
have you ever come across a situation where you guys knew somebody got paid after the fact and maybe threw them out? Like, has that ever happened in your
Oh, you mean
40
to be
years?
paid off?
Yeah, like has anybody ever been paid off or anything like that?
Not, no one's ever been paid off, but you know what? The athletes will bring gifts and they'll come visit, and but that doesn't help. You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah, gifts could come your way, but bullshit gifts like a bottle of wine or
Yeah, 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 yeah,
whatever. But
yeah.
you know what? If anyone is caught even taking a dollar,
Right.
they're done. They're
Yeah.
done.
No, I figured that, but that's why I want to know. Has anybody, like, I don't know the whole history of the sport. Like I started in
I've never
2000.
I've never heard of anyone getting caught
Really?
taking anything like a bribe. No,
Okay. Okay.
and
Okay.
that you would have to bribe half the panel, because if that
Yeah.
person put someone in first and they didn't deserve first, that score's getting kicked out anyway. So you
Right.
just wasted a bottle of wine or a gift or whatever you thought you were being slick about. It just
Right.
really blew up in your face.
Right. 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 What, so you guys don't really pay attention to anything. You take your job so seriously. It's almost like nobody can affect the way you think about the scores. So now with the new age, of social media, that's obviously a new aspect to your
Yes,
career. You never had to deal with that before. So
never. No,
how does that affect you at all?
it doesn't. Honestly, I mean, I get criticized sometimes, and I'm okay with it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm I make a decision. I'm comfortable with it. I'll live with it, and I'll explain why I made that decision. You don't like it? I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
this is why I made that decision.
Do you think do you think subconsciously judges may have somebody's popularity in their mind when they're judging? Is that something that
It could definitely happen. Honestly,
yeah,
you would expect like a Ronnie Coleman to come in and just kick ass, but look, it didn't work that year. Jay Cutler beat him, or it
yeah,
didn't work that year. Gunther beat him. You know what I mean? There are judges that I do. I think you normally think, you know what, this guy probably. You look at the sheet and you go, probably, 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 nah, nah, nah. But you know what? I've had nah nahs prove me wrong, and I've judged them real high.
In
I
what
look
way?
at everyone.
In what way? What's this? Can you give me a specific scenario?
I don't want to call them out, but I've had guys that I thought wouldn't make the top five that did
Hmm.
and did very well. You know what I mean?
So you've had, so you have your preconceived ideas, but you
I
don't.
think everyone does. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah,
like this fight with Tyson and
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul. I mean, everyone thought Tyson was going to knock him out. Most people thought that. You know what I mean? I thought it too, and yet you know what? He was 58 and he looked 58.
He looked 58. But do you
You
think
know,
it was?
so
I've seen a lot of videos since then. Do you think it was rigged?
I honestly don't think it was rigged. I
Yeah.
just think I think Tyson didn't have the power that he used to have, and he had enough whereabouts him to keep the fight going. I
Right.
don't think Jake carried him like people were saying. I think Tyson is still a tough bastard. I
Hmm.
think in a street fight he'd be a bad motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is not a street fight.
Right. 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 Yeah. I've just seen a lot of videos since then showing Tyson
I but I
pulling
you know what
punches
they
and
show exact moves where
yeah.
Tyson could have threw a hook and he
Yeah.
didn't, but he
Yeah.
might have been exhausted. You know what I mean? It's hard to fight for 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
3 minutes seems to a regular guy like, oh, what's 3 minutes? After 2 minutes, especially with the stress, your body's
Okay.
shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have the kind of energy you have, and
Right.
especially when you're 58.
Did you ever do any fighting? Because I know you have a lot of interest in it.
I did a couple of jujitsu contests. I
Okay.
still train in fighting. I box 3 to 4 days a week, usually 3 days a week.
Have you moved up in the ranks and belts in jiu-jitsu?
Not really. No, no.
No.
My last. It was so many years ago. The school that I went to didn't give belts. It was more kind of like almost like Kamagraw with jujitsu.
Okay.
But I've competed in jujitsu contests with that. You know what I mean?
How'd you
And
do?
and done well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Were you a police officer? Is that what I thought that was
No, I was a truck driver.
you were a truck driver. How long did you
I
drive truck for?
when out of high school I got a job. I was working for the New York Post in high school,
Okay.
and I got my union card, and I started delivering newspapers for the Post. And as I was delivering newspapers for the New York Post, which is I don't know if you know that paper. It's a big
Yeah.
paper in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
I then, as I was still working for them, I got shot working for them 3 times in the left leg in
What?
1982. Yes,
Do you
shot
want
three
to
times.
do you want to
Guys
explain
tried to
that?
rob me. Yes,
Okay,
five guys tried to rob me, and they got nothing. Nothing.
okay, wait. Why did five guys try and rob you?
I was delivering newspapers to the newsstands, that are up all
Yeah.
night,
Yeah.
and they collect money, so they figure I was collecting money.
Oh.
But I wasn't collecting money on that route. I was just dropping off papers. But they didn't know that. So they put a gun to my head. Now, if they would have put a gun to my head from the beginning, I would have just said, take the truck. But they asked me for taking them a ride. They just robbed the store I was delivering to. I was like, I'm not taking you anywhere. I
Yeah.
turned around, there was a gun at my head. I dove into the back of the van, and I got hit 3 times in the left leg, twice in the
way.
hamstring and once in the calf. And then just honestly, it was just my instincts took over. I was like, "You MF, I'm gonna get you." Like I said worse than that, but I'm not gonna start
Yeah.
cursing on your show. I came
Okay.
out the side door of the van, and then I came around and I chased them, and they all ran because they all thought I had gun, but I didn't.
Right. Right.
Then I went into the place that just got robbed. They're all sitting like this, no cell phones. I say, "Look, I just got shot. Call the police."
Yeah.
No one called. I went dialed 0 for an ambulance, and then hung up the phone, and then realized they're going to come back and kill me, and I have nothing. So I went into my truck, drove to my next stop. Finally, by then I collapsed.
What
I
the
was just
fuck?
exhausted.
Yeah.
I told someone at the diner, it was a diner that I was delivering to please go to the stop before
Yeah.
and tell them to come get me here.
Right.
They went and they came and got me, and they took me to Jamaica Hospital. Now, remember 50 Cent said he got shot?
Mhm.
That was the same hospital they took him to.
Okay.
That was in 1982, before anyone knew about AIDS. They decided not to give me a blood transfusion to let my own blood build back. If they
Right.
would have given me a transfusion, I would have been dead of AIDS.
Oh my God.
So I really, I'm living on borrowed time since 1982. I was 21 when that happened.
How did you chase them with bullets in your
Adrenaline.
leg?
That was like, like when I guess guys in the army, you know what I mean? When you get
Yeah.
shot, you still go,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you collapse. It was pure adrenaline, and it saved my life because they would have killed me. They had bodies because my stepmother was a police officer, and they caught every one of those guys. There were 5 of them.
Holy shit.
They caught them all, and they all went to jail, and I was like the best witness.
So I noticed you have a little bit of a limp. Is it still from that?
No, no, you know what? I tore my abductor
Okay.
and I just had it repaired, and it's
Okay.
a it's a long recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do have some limping problems. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do? You had surgery, had the bolts removed, and then how long
Two
was the
bullets went straight through. One, when the swelling went down, was removed.
and how long did it take you to get back to training and all that, like back to normal life?
Uh, I would say 90 days.
What the fuck, Steve? It's like
Yeah.
shot 3 times and you're like
Yes.
nobody. Does anybody else know this story?
I my friends do. My friends do.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So
I mean, I can show you the newspaper clippings. I still have the clippings from '82.
so you're delivering. No, I believe you. So you're delivering for the post, and then you decide to drive truck. Are you driving like long haul truck?
No, no, no. Local trucks,
Local
delivering to
trucks.
stores
Yeah.
locally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we decided to open a gym. So we opened the gym on a home equity loan. We had no money. I had no money. Drove the truck at night,
Right.
worked the gym during the day. And when the gym finally became successful, and it took, even when the gym was successful, I was still afraid to give up my job because
Right.
it was a good paying union job.
Right.
Finally, when the gym was really successful, I quit that job and just ran the gym. And the gym's been going since for 38 years.
38 years. The gym business is hard. I think
And I love it. I honestly, I'm never going to retire from running shows, from running my gym. I'm going to do it till I die.
I uh I think I was told restaurants are first and gyms are second for businesses that go under. The most like
Right. And I'm
the
knock on
most.
wood. I'm not in that category.
Why do you think, well, of course, but why do you think the popularity of your gym, like
I'm
why?
here every day. I'm
Yeah,
here every day. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah,
I'm an equipment freak. I always buy new equipment,
right.
but the classic equipment I always keep here, like the Flex and the iCarry and
Yeah,
the old Nautilus, and then I bring in the new Panada and the new Tech stuff, and Max Muscle. Anything that's good, I will bring in.
right,
I
right,
will
right.
buy one piece here, one piece here. I had just got a delivery of 14 pieces of Panada and
Yeah.
about 12 pieces of new tech, still keeping the old equipment, but bringing in the new. There's some really new
How
good
are
equipment
you?
out there.
I've been to your gym a couple times. It's pretty crowded in there. How are you still putting more stuff in there?
Well, actually, we're going to expand, but we just, if it's equipment like how do I say, like a regular piece of like a pre-core chest press, which is nothing special,
Yeah.
out it goes, and
Ah,
something
so
special
you're
goes.
just swapping it out. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm swapping out, but not the classic stuff. The
Right,
really good stuff I hold on to. It's
right,
the stuff that's mediocre. It goes.
right, right, right.
So
Um,
there'll be a time probably where I won't know what to get rid of.
yeah, I can see that happening. So when does the expansion start?
I'm just waiting for the landlord to give me the okay.
Why do you think? Okay, so there's a lot of gyms with equipment. Your gym seems to have atmosphere. Do you think that's what's kind of kept it?
Because I've kept it a gym. There's no places to sit around and do this and do that. You come in here and you train. I have a bench to rest. I have the counter if you want to drink, and that's it. You know what I mean? This is a
Right,
gym. It's a working gym. We have, besides athletes, we have fitness people that just love to just train, that are just really into their training.
right.
And we still have, I don't want to disrespect people. We still have people out of shape, deconditioned people. I don't want to say fat, but
Yeah.
we have everybody in here, and everybody gets along, from a top class bodybuilder
Hmm.
to a dumpy person. Everyone's welcome here. If someone's disrespectful, I throw them out. I won't
Right.
tolerate it. I really will. I will not tolerate anyone making fun of anyone or
Yeah.
anyone like degrading anyone. They're gone.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of the pictures on the wall. It seems like there's just a lot of history in your gym too. That like
Yes, and I love it. Proud of
when
it. Very proud of it.
when do you think it became the mecca of the East Coast?
Robbie, remember Robbie from MD?
Yeah, Robbie Duran.
He named it. He named it, not me. And I never named any of these names.
Right,
The number one bodybuilding gym in the USA was Flex Magazine named it,
right.
and East Coast Mecca was Robbie.
Yeah. So
And I just kept it.
that's not too old then, because Robbie, I think,
No,
was working for MD in like 2005 or six or something
yeah,
like that.
no, he named it. He named it East Coast Mecca, and we just ran with it.
Interesting. Um, what do you think about the new wave of coaching? It's kind of seems to be a controversial thing. Some people think coaches are important. Some people think they're a pain in the ass.
I mean, there are some really good coaches and some really shitty coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're lucky enough to have a good coach, hold on to them. But there are some people that just don't know what the hell they're doing, and I
Hmm.
think they're dangerous. I really do.
Do you think
I
it's
think
got
the problem is a bodybuilder when they have a coach. Sometimes it's okay to have a coach, but you still got to use your brain.
right?
If a coach is telling you to take 5 of these things, why am I taking 5 of these things? What are they going to do to me? You
Right.
have to question everything. You can't just take a coach at their word. Look
Right.
it up, Google it, check it out. Don't just say, "Well, my coach told me to do this." Why am I doing this? Why do I need this? You have to question your coach.
Right. So I think maybe we've reached a point in the coaching where it's kind of the pendulum has swung so far that people are following blindly. So
That's
you're,
that's a problem. That's a big problem. No one should do that. There shouldn't be
yeah,
anyone. I don't care if it's Hani, who I think is one of the best. To
yeah,
anyone, you question everything. Why am I doing it? You don't take a magic blue powder and just drink it and think, "Oh wow,
right,
what is this powder? What is this doing to me?"
yeah,
You
yeah.
have to. It's your body. You have to question it. You can't. That's just giving your life to somebody. You cannot do that.
Yeah, I think Guy Cisternino just posted something recently that was pretty outrageous of a coach sending him. A client came to him,
I think I saw that.
yeah, with the coach's stack, and he
That's
was like,
absurd. It's absurd.
yeah, yeah.
Absurd.
I
This is
think
what I'm talking about.
I think guys are starting to come back around though. I think there is lately seems to be a
Well, more education like this is better.
yeah,
You talking about it and explaining. Ask questions.
right,
Don't do anything blindly.
right. I don't think there's any barrier to entry for coaching. I think that's part of the problem. A
You're
guy
right.
does
There's no
a,
license. No
yeah,
license.
yeah, a guy
Just
does
like a
one show.
14-year-old can have a baby.
True.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's the
yeah,
same. You got to be 21 or 18 to have a license, but you could be 14 and 15 and have a kid.
yeah, yeah. Steve, on the promotion front, how long have you been promoting shows?
Since 1989.
Okay, so
No,
I've been
88. 88. The
so
Atlantic States was the first show I promoted.
so 35 years approximately.
Yes.
So I've been promoting shows for 15,
Right.
and I'm constantly trying to find new ways to do things, to keep things interesting or to just bring a different element to it. Do you think there's do you think there's ways to make bodybuilding different than it already is, or is bodybuilding just the way it is and it's going to be that way? Like, is there ways to
Well,
make
I think putting on better shows, better staging, of course, the best lights and big screens where people could see everywhere. We're doing that. I mean, I think like the Olympia this year was very exciting.
yeah,
Having Bruce Buffer open it up. I think that was the best opening ever. That blew my mind. I think
right,
that was thinking out of the box. There's still things you could always improve everything. You know what I mean?
right.
You can improve the NFL just like you can improve bodybuilding.
Do you think, and I'm going to ask you this, and I know I'm not sure if this is in your purview of decision making or not, but obviously you have the ear of the top, of the Manions. So, do you think there should be a standardized staging, standardized lighting? Do you think that kind of thing should be implemented in the
I
IFBB?
don't know about no. I think the show should have its own personality, in my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
But I think lighting is very, very important. It should be standard. The lighting has to be excellent. And I do think sometimes, and we went back and forth with the Olympia. The Olympia stage was awesome,
Right.
but I think when a bodybuilder is posing, it should go black.
Agreed. Yeah.
That I think
Yeah.
that and Jim and Tyler, they're working on that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They believe that too. You don't want distractions behind you when you're judging and when you're competing.
Yeah. And I mean, even for the fans watching, I mean,
Absolutely, a
there's some,
hundred percent.
yeah, there's some shows when
That I think should be looked into, and I think it is being looked into.
okay. Um, how would that work? Like, I mean, I
Well, you just
guess,
shut it off. I mean, most of it is electronic.
no, I
You
don't
just
mean the
have
black,
to.
I don't mean the black screen part. I mean the standardized lighting. Are you gonna send a lighting crew to, like, does the promoter gonna have to pay for a lighting crew to come to each show and do the lighting so that it's all the same? Or
Well, honestly, I think you got to go by each promoter. I mean,
right.
someone like you that's promoting 15 years, I'm sure you know how to do lights.
Well, I
Someone
just
like I that's promoting a
yeah,
long time,
yeah,
it's the new promoters that need help, and they
right.
should pay for someone that's been approved by the MPC IFBB for lighting,
Right.
a good photographer like a JM or the other photographers out there that can help you set the lighting right. Get the
Right.
light meter, make sure the lights are the same across the stage. I think new promoters should have that. I think that should be part in their contract of them getting a show.
Their agreement. Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to posing, another thing I wanted to ask you about standardizing. When it comes to posing, do you think there's too much freedom in posing, or do you think it's where it needs to be? And when I say that, I
When
mean,
you say posing, you mean the free posing round?
no, I don't mean free posing round. I mean like doing mandatories. Some guys will
I
hit,
know that's why I call it. I think mandatories should be hit accordingly. I mean, if you want to do like Victor on a front double bicep, that's fine. I mean, I'm not
mm,
saying you can't have your own personality, but the poses need to be the poses. We have to judge those poses the way they are. You could put your own little. You like if you want to hide, you've got a wide waist. You want to turn your hip a little bit. If one leg is a little smaller than the other one, you want to put that out a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that, but the poses have to be the poses.
see, that's the question I want to ask you because I think it was Tony Freeman a long time ago. Me and him were talking about it, and he was saying that he didn't think that, and I don't want to put words in his mouth. This is what I recall. And I've heard other people say it as well. So it's not just Tony Freeman, but do you think that you shouldn't be able to put your leg out? You shouldn't be able to hide your waist. You shouldn't be able to tilt your arms. Like if there's a weakness,
No, I disagree. I mean,
yeah,
when you're a fighter, if you don't have a good jab, you don't throw it. If you got a good hook, you throw it.
right.
I think you should be allowed to manipulate your body to look the best it can, as long as it's within the rules of our posing, of
I
our
didn't
mandatory poses.
I didn't
I
expect
don't
you to
think
say
there's a
that.
problem like twisting a little bit. I mean, hiding one leg if it's a little smaller. I don't see a problem with that. I think that's competition.
So you're allowing the guys to have a little bit of freedom and show themselves the
I
best.
think you have to. I don't think it's. I think that's the right way to do it.
Yeah. I guess presentation is part of the sport. So if you're,
Absolutely.
yeah, so if you can present yourself
And
better, then I guess,
there are guys with great shape, that beautiful shape, that
yeah,
pose like donkeys. They don't know what they're doing. I mean, and then you get a guy that doesn't have great shape but knows how to manipulate his body to look better. I mean, that's competition.
yeah, yeah. I never looked at it like that. I totally thought you were going to go the other way on it. I thought you were going to
No,
say, really? That's so
no,
not that.
I don't think it's fair. I think if you could within the guidelines show it properly, I'm fine with that.
What is how do your peers feel about that? Like how does Jim or Tyler or any of the senior brass feel about that? They've shared.
I don't think we've ever had a problem with that, honestly,
Okay.
or no one's ever really said, like if there's a guy hitting a front double bicep and he's not hitting a front double bicep, I'll say stand straight.
Right.
But I've never had to do that, honestly, because it's never been that bad.
Okay. I want to touch on the Prague show because there's a lot of controversy after Prague. And I know why there's controversy. I'm sure you do too. Chris is
Yes,
the most popular person in bodybuilding and probably has one of the most sought after physiques we've ever seen.
that'd be the physique I would pick if it was for me.
Right. So when he competes in the open, I think in bodybuilding terms, a lot of us can see why he didn't win, but I think a lot of people watching don't necessarily understand. So I wanted to have you on
Right.
primarily to discuss the Prague show and try and educate people on the top five, mainly to educate people on Chris, Martin, and Sean, because I've heard people say, well, this should have been this way and this should have been that way. So I wanted to get your take on each shot, maybe, and why you think, or overall, why you think Martin won first. Let's go there.
Overall, Martin won first. He was in better condition than the Olympia, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
But he was in good enough condition to win this show.
Okay.
He had muscle. He has good shape. He had muscle. He could have been a little harder, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And he won because of that. Really, it was his shape and his muscle.
What do you say about people that are, and I'm going to ask you questions I kind of know the answer to, but I just want to see what you think.
No problem.
What do you say to people that are like, if you would have picked Chris, it would change the direction of bodybuilding for the positive?
Well, well, we wouldn't have picked the best bodybuilder. That we would have picked a beautiful physique, amazing physique, arguably one of the best physiques in the world, including bodybuilding, but
Yeah.
not a bodybuilder's physique.
But I
He
think that
does not have enough muscle, in my opinion, to be considered a bodybuilder. He has enough shape to be a bodybuilder, but not enough muscle.
just to keep pressing that point for a second, because I know what people are going to say. So I want to press the point for them. They're going to say, if you would have let Chris win, then bodybuilding wouldn't be just about size, and it would change the direction of how bodybuilders are training and looking.
I I got to disagree. I mean, I think I don't think it, I don't think it would have changed. I mean, then a guy like Earth would have then become a bodybuilder instead of in classic physique, and what would he do? You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't. If Chris had a thicker back, bigger arms, and a bigger chest, he could have won that show, but he
Right.
didn't, and that's
Right.
why he didn't win that show.
So,
He had the shape to win the show, but not enough muscle to win that show. And it's still a bodybuilding show, and that's why we have classic physique and we have bodybuilding. And he still has a classic physique bodybuilder. I'm sure in 6 months he could probably turn that around.
right.
I'm not. I shouldn't say I'm sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, but he's done. You know what I mean?
Right.
This was a one and done. This was just for fun.
Right.
If this was a serious show, if I was his friend, I would have given him the advice to take a year off and put more muscle on, and then maybe he could have won.
Right.
But he didn't have enough muscle to win.
So ultimately, the answer on a macro level is we have bodybuilding criteria and we have classic criteria, and
Yes.
he doesn't necessarily fit the bodybuilding criteria
Right now
as,
he doesn't, but I'm
as
not
well as
saying he couldn't do it in
yeah,
maybe 6 months of training,
right, right.
more eating, more calories.
I want to get down to the judging on a micro level.
Okay.
When you see, okay, so you mentioned his chest, his arms, and his back. So when he's hitting like a front double, a
His
lat
front
spread,
thighs too. His front thighs
yeah,
too.
yeah,
His side thigh is gorgeous. I mean,
right,
it's unbelievable. The hamstring hangs from the side. His leg looks great,
right.
but not from the front. No.
So when he's standing next to Martin and they're hitting a front double, for example, let's just go to front double. He's
Right.
the reason you're giving that shot. Like I noticed Martin got straight first, so you're giving that
Yes.
shot to Martin based on what? Leg size, arm size,
And shape.
and shape.
Yes.
So in shape wise, though, Chris and Martin are probably equal in shape. No,
Honestly, Chris might even be a little better. Honestly,
okay,
Chris could be, but Martin had enough muscle
with the
to
shape,
make his shape look
yeah,
better.
right. I got you. So then, same thing with that same thing. Would that same thing apply to the front lat spread, the side chest, or is there a different way to look at each pose?
No, you look at it the same way. You know, I mean, the front lat spread. I mean, Chris's lat spread. If you just looked at a lat spread,
Right,
was better than Martin's. But
right,
you look at the whole body. You look at the front thigh. You look at the shoulders. Chris's shoulders are not that big.
right.
You look at his arms; they're not that big. You look at Martin. He's big. He's thick, and he's round. And that's bodybuilding.
Okay. And from the side shots, I feel like you can hide a little bit. Like Chris
Well,
is
you can't hide the fact Chris has small arms. He has great legs from the side. He
right.
could use a bigger chest and bigger arms.
Okay. So all of it. So mainly, what you're saying then is, even though Chris's condition was better, the size discrepancy was too much.
It wasn't good enough to take him over the top because Martin wasn't in his best shape, but he was still in good shape.
Right.
You know, if Martin would have been, let's say, 10% softer, maybe Chris would have won.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he was in good enough shape to pull it out. Not in his best shape, but good enough shape.
Now, if you go from okay, so I understand that about Martin. I kind of felt the same way. On Friday night, though, I thought Martin faded a bit in judging. Like going back to what you were saying about posing them and seeing how
I
they
agree.
do.
He started sweating like a lunatic.
It wasn't just
But he still held enough
together.
to hold off Chris. If
Okay.
Chris would have been a little bigger, Chris could have won that show easily.
Okay.
I bet you in 6 months, if we judged it again, and Chris, ate enough and trained hard, I wouldn't be surprised if he did.
All right. So what do you think? So if we move from Martin to Sean, because if you look at Sean
Okay.
per square inch. Sean's, thick as hell in some areas.
Yes.
How do we quantify that? Why didn't Sean beat Chris?
It's still a big guy and a little guy there. You know what I mean? Sean has amazing muscle on that little frame, but it's a little frame. So we're talking about a 212 guy with a tremendous amount of muscle against a classic physique guy with beautiful shape and enough muscle.
I see.
That's where you've got to look at what you've got in front of you. If Chris wouldn't have been as good in condition as he was in, he would have lost to Sean. But Chris was in excellent condition, not the same muscle mass, but beautiful shape. And that's when sometimes shape beats muscle.
Right.
If it was muscle, Sean would have won.
It's so hard. It's so hard for someone watching who doesn't have years of experience that you have to hear you say Martin won because he was bigger, but Sean lost even though he was bigger.
But he was a smaller frame. It's a little guy with a lot of muscle.
So the frame size is also being judged.
Well, of course, it's symmetry. You have to look at it.
Okay.
Chris's symmetry was awesome. Sean, for that much muscle, has amazing symmetry. And that's why he lost 2 years ago, because he put too much muscle on his body.
Yeah.
If you remember when he lost 2 years ago,
he
ruined his shape by putting on too much muscle. He made it better last year, this year, excuse me. But Keon was on, you know what I mean? So it didn't matter. Keon was just awesome. But he did improve. He did what he was supposed to do. He improved his shape, but it wasn't enough to beat Keon.
So when I break down shows for the audience, I like to look at it from like 3 pillars of judging, like symmetry, muscularity, and condition.
That's what it is. That is definitely what it is. You can't break it down any other way.
Right. So if we're looking at Sean and Chris, we're giving symmetry and condition to Chris and muscularity to Sean?
Yes.
Okay. I understand. What about presentation? Like when they came out on Friday night, Chris's posing is a 10 out of 10.
He might be the best poser I've ever seen, honestly.
His
posing is absolutely, from the way he holds his wrists to everything, unbelievable.
Right.
Posing matters if they're very, very, very close. If they're not, you can't take Chris and give him the win because he's a great poser.
Right.
It's bodybuilding. It's not like dance or ballet. It's bodybuilding.
Okay. Yeah, because I put presentation into a group of like posing, color, stage presence.
His color was awesome. He was the ultimate professional on that stage. Right. He couldn't have been any better, from his tan to his presentation to his condition. From the Olympia to what he came to was unbelievable.
Okay, so I think I understand the top 3. Then we had Matthias, I believe is his name, took 4th.
Right. Excellent condition, not enough muscle.
He kind of came in out of nowhere there. So
unbelievable. His condition was crazy.
So do you think he beat someone like, because I know, Horst was 5th, and then I think we had Christian Wolski.
Horst wasn't hard enough. If Horst was hard enough, Horst would have beat him.
Yeah.
Horst had much more muscle, but once again, he wasn't in the condition. He was soft.
Right.
And we looked at it at night, and he didn't get any better. He was just as soft at night.
The one that threw me off was not Matthias beating Horst. That one I kind of understood.
Right.
The one that threw me was Christian Wolski was in 6th. I thought Christian and Horst would have been 4-5. Why did Christian end up in 6th, if you remember?
He did not have enough muscle, and he's got a wide waist.
He does.
He tries to put more muscle on, but he doesn't. He meets the cap, so it's very hard for him.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to him after the show. We emailed, and that's the problem. His shape is holds him back. That's what we were talking about with the wide waist.
So you're thinking,
sometimes sometimes we let guys show their body to the best of their ability, but his shape hurt him. It was his shape, and because he's on the cap, he can't put more muscle on to improve his shape. So he's got a problem.
Well, Christian, there's no cap and open. So what you're saying is
no, but I'm saying
figuratively,
yeah, he would have had to have put on, I don't know, maybe 8 pounds, but then he would have had to take it off and he's a classic guy just doing this for the hell of it, he would hurt himself in the classic competitions.
No, Christian Wolski is not a classic guy.
Oh, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me.
Sorry, let me.
His
You want me
shape, you're confusing me now. His
I'm
shape.
sorry. Christian Wolski. Let me see if I can pull this up for you.
Okay.
Shit.
These European names all sound the same to me, honestly.
I figured.
And I don't pronounce them very well.
Yeah. He was yeah, he was sixth, and I do think his shape could be better, and I do agree he has a little bit wider waist. But I just want to show you this real quick.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring
No
this out.
problem.
There we go. Okay, so this is Christian's Instagram. This was him at the Prague show.
He honestly, he looked very good. A lot of muscle, nice shape, a little bit thick, but horse was better.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what you mean with him putting on more size could make him look a little bit blockier,
Yes.
but he does need a
Got
little bit more.
great legs.
Yeah.
Where he could use more size, honestly, is make his back wider and maybe his delts a little bigger.
Yeah.
And his chest could be bigger too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because his legs are so big, it's almost like there's
His
a little
legs
bit.
are huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huge. It overpowers his and look, he's got high lats too.
Yeah.
They stop right midway instead of coming all the way down.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to ask you about Chris again. I just want to see what you think. How hard is it when you're sitting at the table when you have somebody like Chris who's like a modern day Arnold's popularity? How hard is it to put that guy in second and know you're going to face backlash?
That's my job. You know what I mean? I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to make the right call. I'm not there to be popular. I don't count. I'm just a person that judges. I'm not there as a popularity person or trying to be popular or trying to make friends. I'm just doing my job. I'm not trying to make enemies. I'm just trying to do my job the best I can. And unfortunately, sometimes that brings booze.
Mm-hmm. How hard was it to be in that audience though? Because I heard the place was insane.
I never heard an audience like that ever at any show. I described it as Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley combined. It was thick. it was mind blowing. And when he acknowledged the crowd, it went up 10 decibels. It was mind blowing. And crazy. He acknowledged them a lot. I mean, he knows how to work the crowd too. He's an intelligent man.
Yeah, his stage presence is
awesome. He is in tune with that crowd.
Yeah.
He's also in tune with the judges. I mean, he knows when to hit his poses and when not to. And you know how some guys you say, like, side chest, they go to the side, they bend down, they throw their hamstring out. He gets right into that pose so we could judge him. I mean, he knows what he's doing.
Does that bother you when guys do that? Because I know a lot.
It doesn't bother me. It just hurts them because they only have so much time to be judged, and they're wasting it.
I think the guys, what I was told coming up, I think a lot of guys think be the last guy in the pose because they'll look at you last.
Absolutely wrong.
Don't
be
do
the first guy in that pose and the last guy out of that pose.
I see. That's actually
completely wrong.
Okay. Well, you guys watching heard to hear from
I'm telling you, you're the last guy to hit that pose. Front double bicep, front lat spread. You're already missing it. Yeah.
So that whole thinking of I want to be the last one, so they look at me last doesn't mean shit.
Worst thing you could possibly do.
It would have been nice to know that 20 years ago when I was competing.
You should have called me.
I should have called you. Steve, I want to talk about the Olympia really quickly. I know we're not. I don't want to go over like everything. Where did you see Martin and Hunter? Like, I mean, I know where you placed them, obviously, but I had Hunter a little higher on Friday night, and I had Martin a little higher on Saturday night.
I agree with that.
Okay, so where would you have put Hunter on Friday night? Because I was kind of blown away when he walked out.
He honestly looked awesome, but he fell apart quickly. The
Yeah.
more we posed him, the quicker he fell apart, and that's why Martin beat him.
Right.
Martin was getting better, and Hunter was falling apart.
Yeah.
Hunter started holding water. He just didn't look good when he first came out. He looked like top three material, but
That's what I
as
thought.
as the night went on, he fell apart.
So on Saturday night, when you saw Martin up there, could you have made a case for him being third?
Yes, yes, you
Could,
could have. Yes, but it was not enough time and not enough points.
right.
That's why you get that early lead on Friday. You could hold off a guy.
What
But yeah,
about
you could make an argument for him being in third. You absolutely could. He was awesome on Saturday night.
what
And
about
as we know, Derek was off.
yeah? What about second? Could you have seen Martin ahead of Hottie or no?
No,
Not that good yet.
no.
Okay. And with Derek, was it a question of him being off, or was it a question of him?
Yes. If Derek would have been the Derek of the year before, I don't know what would have happened. His legs were small. He just was off. I don't know
Okay.
what he did wrong, but he was off.
Okay. No, that's what I wanted to ask you. I felt like there was more of an imbalance issue than a conditioning issue. Like
Right.
his legs looked.
His conditioning wasn't the way it normally is either.
It wasn't like it
but his
wasn't like
legs
last
were
year.
small.
Yeah. Yeah. So when people talk about Hottie and Samson, I know it's a really tough one because they both are very muscular. They both have great shape. Obviously, I think Samson's shape's a little better.
So do I.
But, but when people say, Hottie's condition versus, so can you quantify that for us real quick before you go? I don't want to keep you too long.
Hottie has excellent muscularity. Remember, he's a 212 guy. He's got a small frame with crazy muscle. And Samson is a big guy with a big frame that holds a lot of muscle with beautiful shape.
Right.
Hottie was honestly a little bit harder on Saturday night, but Samson's shape, and he was so hard for where Samson impressed me was his glutes and his hamstrings when he turned around. He's
Yeah.
never had that before, and that really helped him. I mean, I think he needs to do a better job of controlling his stomach, to tell you the truth. That's the only thing that I didn't like on Samson.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Sean Roden had that same problem too. When they hit that front double bicep, they have that little bit of it almost looks like a little bit of water, even though it's not, almost like a beer belly. They got to learn how to suck that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
In my opinion.
So you've taught me something new today that I never actually considered is that frame matters.
Frame does matter, of course.
I never considered that.
A little frame and a big frame with the same amount of muscle, the big frame is going to win, especially if it has a small waist.
If all things are equal.
Work.
So
you're saying work.
So you're saying if all things are equal, symmetry, muscularity, conditioning, frame matters at that point.
Yes, you have to look at something. If everything is the same and you keep posing and nothing changes,
right?
That's why a Samson will beat a Hottie because of his frame.
I got you. All right, I just want to take a couple audience questions before you go. Let's see. Is there anything? Can you ask him if they will add more poses to classic?
That's something we have to discuss. I'm not, I don't know. It's possible. I could see more poses in that class. It wouldn't be a bad idea.
Why do you think I've never heard that before? Why do you think they would need more poses? It's not enough, you think?
It's just you go from a front double bicep to a side chest to a back double bicep to overhead abdominals. Maybe you could add a lat spread in there or something. You know what I mean?
Right. This guy says, I still don't understand how Martin won prejudging through Steve's eyes. Well, I think in Prague, yeah.
Because he still, even though he was a little soft, he still had more muscle, and his shape was excellent. So was Chris's, but Chris didn't have enough muscle. You couldn't give that to Chris on the muscle side.
Does Steve think Nick can win the Olympia? Nick Walker.
He'd have a hard time. His hands are full. Can't underestimate him, but his shape needs work.
So he's got the muscularity and the condition. It's the
symmetry. You know what I mean?
Back. Yeah.
He's got a rough road ahead of him, honestly.
Can you ask Steve if he ever thinks there will be another long reigning Mr. Olympia?
I don't think so.
Do you think Samson
not the way it is right now?
Do you think Samson could be that guy?
if Andrew Jack puts it together, I'd like to see those two together.
Yeah,
I think
that'd be
honestly, potential wise, those two are the best.
yeah,
Potential. I'm not saying, you don't know if if Samson could put it together, in the same condition and even better condition because these other guys weren't at their best. Some of them,
right,
he's got to get better too.
right.
It's very hard to be consistent year in and year out.
Hmm. This guy asks, was Chris not at his best in Prague? But I kind of want to extend
I
that
think
question.
I think he was.
Well, I want to ask you a separate question from that. Do you think that's the best Chris you've ever seen? Because Jay said something about recently that he thinks that's the best Chris has ever looked with the added fullness.
I can't argue that. I really
Yeah,
liked it.
yeah,
He's got such a big frame that he has to make weight, that he has to come down, that he looks, a little smaller. He
right,
did have no cap on him, and he was able to put as much muscle on as possible from the Olympia, and I thought it did him good, especially in
right.
that three-quarter back. It looked awesome.
Who is Steve's favorite bodybuilder of all time?
My favorite bodybuilder of all time. Ooh. When I was a kid growing up, it was Lou Ferrigno.
Really? Do you
Yeah.
have a modern day one?
No, I try not to.
Yeah.
I don't want no favorites.
Who do you think is the greatest bodybuilder of all time?
Mm, the
Really?
greatest bodybuilder of all
I
time. I
thought,
mean, you can't discount Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman just on results,
right.
but you also can't discount Sergio Oliva on that shape. So I mean, out of those three, I don't know who. I mean, I got to give you three. I can't give you one. I
Okay.
mean,
Okay.
eight-time Mr. Olympia, you can't discount that. Sergio Oliva, for the knowledge he had and the condition he looked in was awesome because he had no knowledge back then.
Hmm.
He
Hmm.
just trained in the gym and ate hot dogs.
Um, this one actually is a good question. What do you think about Nexzilla? What's his fucking name? I can't Rubiel. Rubiel.
Rubia, you know what? I've seen nothing out of him. I saw him in Prague sitting in the audience. The one thing I'm excited about is he's doing the New York Pro.
Okay.
Hopefully, he will be impressive. I mean, he's got short arms. He could be good. He was good when I judged him as an amateur, and he came third as a pro. Potential is there, but I mean, I don't know why he's not competing now. I don't know what he's doing. It didn't look like he was training very hard from what I saw. You know what I mean? I just
Well, the funny thing is he doesn't need any more muscle.
no, but he should be competing.
That's what I mean. Like he doesn't need any more muscle. So
No, he should be
why
competing. I mean,
why not get on stage?
he looked great when he turned pro. It was 2 years ago in Prague, and then he came third in the pros, and then he just shut it down after that. He didn't continue.
Um, if Ramon would have done Prague, do you think or not Ramon, sorry, Raphael would have done Prague? Do you think he would have beat Chris?
I don't know. That's a good question, and it's so I don't like to answer those questions. It's like side by side. I could tell you in a second. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't know. You know what? He might have had a hard time with him, Chris. Chris might have had a hard time. He really might
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Because Raphael has a lot of muscle and he has really good shape.
Who do you think is going to take Chris's place? Is there somebody you think is a front runner? Is it like a
I
Terrence
I don't
Ruffin?
I
Is
don't
it like
think
a
anyone is going to take his place for a while. That guy is a rock star.
well,
I
wait, I
hate
don't
to see him go. I mean, who's going to
yeah.
win? I don't know honestly. If I knew that, I'd pick the lotto numbers and I'd be so rich I wouldn't care anymore. It's impossible to call that. It really is. It's not fair to any bodybuilder for me to say that. You know what I mean? It's just
Well,
not.
we're not saying I'm not asking you to pick your favorite. I'm just saying out of the people you've seen compete this past year, is it just stand to reason that Mike Sommerfeld is the front runner?
Yes, but on condition and what he did, yes, yes,
Yeah.
that is fair to say. He came out of nowhere. He looked unbelievable. I was blown away by his shape
Hmm.
and his condition. Awesome.
How
He's
did
definitely he after the last contest, he has to be the front runner. Yes.
how did Wesley go from winning the Arnold to like sixth or seventh
He
or
came
whatever?
he came really small. He just lost a lot of size.
Okay. So they tried
He
to push. They
just,
pushed the
yeah,
conditioning.
I think he did too many shows, maybe, or he just didn't eat enough. He was small.
Steve, will you come back and help me break down more shows? I think we can really
Whenever you want, no
educate a
problem.
lot of people. Yeah.
Anytime.
Okay. Listen, I don't want to keep you too long. We've been on for an hour. I do appreciate you being so candid and giving me your time and being so open about everything.
Anytime.
But yeah, if we can do this more often, I think the fans would like it and to get like a real answer from the head judge.
No problem.
All right, Steve. Thank you very much for your
You're
time, man.
welcome.
I
It's been
really,
a
really
pleasure.
appreciate it. Okay, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.